Launch Director, NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
Hello again, welcome back to the Journeyman Chronicles. You know my name, Felix C. Arroyo, the Journeyman. This is episode 56. I'm talking to Makaya Revell. This is part 2, and we're going to get into that very shortly. But first, obviously, how you doing? How's it going? How's life treating you? Have you been taking the time to enjoy life? A lot of people appreciated the real. I had posted earlier this week about, just not getting swept away with the everyday grind, the hustle and bustle, breaking your back for a job that you're not happy doing. And that's no shade. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Look, I've done it. So I got a lot of feedback from that, and I'm grateful. A lot of people shared that, and I'm extremely grateful. That just shows me, that the people that are following me and following this podcast resonate with the message that I'm sharing, which is, loving yourself and taking care of yourself so you can take care of your family, and that you've only got one life to live. So live it the best way you can. And, you got to do what you got to do at times, but don't lose sight of yourself. Don't lose yourself. So that's what I've been doing, especially this past week for myself. I've been working really hard. It was a pretty busy week. My daughter's baptism's coming up this weekend finally. And so I'm looking forward to that. My wife and I are getting back into the swing of things. We're going back to church. It's been a long time for me. My wife is a lot better at it than I am. I'm horrible. Growing up Catholic, Puerto Rican to boot, it was really strict. So there's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to kind of reconnect some things that are missing in my life. And so anyway, I hope that you're having moments of reconciliation and reconnection, finding yourself, having good times with loved ones and friends. And damn, you're here right now watching the Journeyman Chronicles, so life has to be good, right? Especially if you got time to watch me. The video content is something I'm getting used to. It's a little different for me. I'm used to just, putting on headphones and talking into a mic, not really worried about, what the background looks like or what I'm wearing or if I look presentable. And I don't mean that in a vain way. I mean, obviously, right? I need to look presentable. Nobody wants to look at a schmuck. So it's a little different for me, but I'm enjoying it. And I hope you are too, because this is the next level of the Journeyman Chronicles. It's not only listening, but let's see who we're talking to. And let's see if we can connect on an even more deeper level now that we can put a face to the name, if you know what I'm saying. So without any further ado, let's circle back around and get right back into who I was talking about. This episode, 56, we're talking to Makaya Revell. This is the second interview I had with Makaya. Episode 16 was my first. That was a Zoom interview, and it was a great conversation. But, with Zoom interviews, and I mean, I don't know, web interviews, call them whatever you want, whatever platform you're using, it's just not the same. And sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And that's what happened a year ago, considering the COVID, scare again, rising and all that. And we were just, my wife and I, not really comfortable with bringing people into our home. And so I conducted, I think, like the next 4 or 5 interviews at that time straight on Zoom. And I always told myself, I said, this conversation with Makaya was so good, hearing his journey, escaping genocide from the Democratic Republic of Congo. This was an accidental thing on his part. It wasn't like he was trying to escape his home. He genuinely was escaping at the moment and hiding in a cargo ship, only to wake up, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So listen, I encourage you to travel back in time, if you will, and listen to episode 16 and get to know that journey. What he's doing now, his businesses, and his journey while he was here in the States for the past 20 some years, fighting for amnesty, and it being a challenge. Just recently, Makaya was granted amnesty here in the United States after 20 some years. So that was a pretty big deal for him. Considering the fact that he's got this foundation for orphans from the war in Congo, he's working with refugees, and he's of service. And to do all this, but still have your own problems that you're dealing with your own citizenship, if you will, in the United States, to be at any time really deported, is amazing that he was still able to maintain focus and still do what he was doing. And so when I saw him granted amnesty, and it was this awesome celebration he was sharing online, I was like, man, right now is a perfect opportunity to get him in-house and catch up with Makaya. So that's what we did. That's what this interview is. We actually, for the second time, have met each other. The first time we officially met, my wife and I, Alexandra, we took our 2 little girls to his house where he and his mom, Dr. Elizabeth Revell, live. And they've got llamas and alpacas and sheep. And it's this fundraising event every summer they do to raise money. And he invited us, and we went. And so that's when I met Makaya. Really awesome guy. But nonetheless, he sat down. We talked for about an hour and a half. And this conversation, it's a little bit more in depth now. We're going to talk about the celebration of finally being granted amnesty, but he also talks about the experience he had in the detention center here in the States as a young boy, as a 16-year-old boy, and what he experienced, and why he's so passionate to fight for the refugees that are seeking amnesty. And so without any further ado, let's get right into it. Makaya Revell stopped by my home. Let's see, this is the day before St. Patty's Day. I'm recording this. I want to say maybe 5 weeks ago. Real cool cat, humorous. There's a lot of funny stories in this interview as well. We get to hear about his relationship, his wonderful relationship with his mother, Dr. Elizabeth Revell, and what he plans on doing now that he has the amnesty journey behind him, so to speak. He's still very much focused, and we talk a lot about the conditioning that he's experienced because of the detention center trauma in his life, how he's conditioned to think and feel, and there's some things he's trying to change. So listen, let's get right into it. Episode 56. This is Makaya Revell Part 2. So thank you for entertaining the idea and coming by. This is our second time meeting. I was able to see you and your mom at your beautiful home in York during the summer. I brought my family by. Yeah. And you've got a beautiful home, a lot of land. You've got, forgive me, they're llamas, or are they not llamas?
Yeah, llamas, alpacas.
Alpacas, yeah. And
sheep.
There's so much stuff going on there. You do that every single summer?
Yeah, every year for 20 years.
Wow.
I think 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It has been a community event that we trying to entertain, give back to the community.
Gotcha.
Get people together, have a good time.
Whose idea was that to start doing that?
It was my parents' ideas back in 1992, I think.
Okay.
The fun thing about it is that the first time they had it, but there 7 people came.
Only 7 people came the first time.
7 people the first
time. God bless those 7 people.
I know. So the idea of a sheep sharing,
yeah,
I don't know. So a lot of people didn't pay attention to it, until, I came.
Gotcha.
In the picture.
I gotcha.
My African friends start coming, my, colleagues, classmates.
Yeah.
And after 22 years of doing that, and we emerged to over 200 people coming
Wow.
every year now.
And you said your African friends, I'm assuming they're coming from overseas. That's fair to say. Are there people traveling far and wide to come to this event? Are they all local? Or?
Mostly interstate.
Okay.
Where they're coming from different states, but the African friends who are already living here in the U.S.
Okay.
A lot of migrants, refugees, asylum seekers. So every summer, that kind of events where they feel like, hey, it is a chance to talk to the people.
Absolutely.
But to, interact with the other, people from different cultures. So, mostly those who already living here. Yeah. But this year, this will be the first year we will have people actually come from Congo.
Oh, this coming summer?
Yeah, this summer, yes.
Got you.
So 3 members of the Mary Makaya Foundation are coming from Kinshasa to attend the ship sharing event.
This is the first time.
This is the first time.
How did that come about? Was that something you?
Yeah, I just decided that, because we use that as a part of a fundraising as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is better for the donors to meet people from the region, because oftentimes I'm talking about it, I'm writing about it, I have lived here for 20 years. So I just decided that, and not just me, and with the borders.
Yeah.
But we just decided that maybe it would be nicer to bring people from the field, from the region, to tell the story kind of practically. Gotcha. What's really going on in the Congo and the work they're doing in the Congo.
That's a good point. I mean, my hat off to you for. There's so much. Obviously, we've already gotten into it in the first interview, but considering everything, how you're consistently trying to reinvent the wheel when it comes to how can we incorporate what we're talking about over here, because it's hard for people to understand when they're not there, and you've got people that are supportive and involved, but to bring family and friends and or people that are part of the foundation over, and they're going to share stories, and then obviously also get to see what you got going on over here as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, it's almost like putting a face into story. People need to see that we are, truthful, authentic, and kind of active and practical. So it's very important to us for people to see our people who are doing work over there to be here. Yeah. Yeah. But, I do want to acknowledge that, the passing of your father really kind of, it really, it made me sad.
Oh, thank you.
It really made me sad because, as you know, I recently lost my father as well. So it really made me sad. So I am deeply sorry for your loss.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I was aware that your father passed. I didn't know when.
Yeah, it was a few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was unexpected. And I had planned on taking a break after Christmas, and then when that happened, I had to take a longer break, obviously. But I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing this right now feels good. It took me a while to, kind of wrap my mind around some things, but having this conversation and getting back into the swing of things, it's not easy, but it's necessary to kind of we have to move on. Because life doesn't stop.
Yes.
And you know this all too well
yourself. Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
When I started this conversation, one of the things I mentioned, obviously, was the idea of reaching back out to you. Share with me what I saw, what you shared, because the idea of Makaya Revell doing all the work that he's doing with the foundation that's named after your mother. With the work that you're doing with the Peace Promising Consulting.
Yeah, Peace Promise Consulting.
One can easily forget that you also at the same time, for a very long time, were dealing with your own situation here in the States in regards to where you're from and whether they were going to accept you and keep you. Can you break that down for someone that doesn't really understand it?
Yeah.
Because you just celebrated that they finally...
Yes, but the asylum being granted after 20 years of living in the United States. So I think a lot of people do understand the U.S. immigration system. I call it system because, it's operating in a very strange way.
Okay.
Oftentimes, when you hear politicians would tell us that the immigration system is broken, but we need to fix immigration system because it's broken.
Yeah.
In my experience, I don't think immigration system is broken because practically we know that people are coming and go 24/7 in the United States. So the system practically is not broken. What's broken? It is the people's souls, the ones who are in charge of making a day by day decisions. And the problem I, noticed after 20 years of fighting my own immigration system is that they're not telling us the truth about what's going on in the immigration system. For example, I was brought to the United States at the age of 16, fleeing violence in the Congo, fleeing ethnic cleansing, civil war that ultimately affected my parents and my family. My father was killed. My youngest brother was killed. But he was 8 years old when he was shot. So, making a long story short, I was brought here in the United States at the age of 16, asking asylum as a refugee.
Yeah.
With no families, no friends. So I came here as an unaccompanied minor.
Okay.
Put into system. I was in detention center at the Bucks County in Pennsylvania. The problem we faced at that time, this is in 2002, was we noticed that a lot of staff, they just, with the ICE agents, the immigration staff were watching us there. They were responsible for us. They were psychologically abusing us. Lack of a respect, lack of a dignity,
the way they spoke to you and the way
they spoke to you,
sure.
but they treat you but you have no value, and it's almost like you are a burden to them. So, I became very angry, depressed, easily agitated. Sleep deprived because every 15 minutes, every night, but they come with a flashlight, putting in your face, making sure that and put the light is off in your room with one bank after the other, but they will come in every 15 minutes to flash up your
every 15 minutes.
Every 15 minutes. So,
wow,
sleeping become like a problematic. So I called my mom back in the Congo because when they went after my family, my mother, biological mom, and other brothers, but they fled the town. So after almost 2 months, I was able to interact with my mom by phone. My lawyer kind of made it happen. So I was complaining with everything was happening in this place, detention center. And my mom said to ask my social worker to give me the U.S. Constitution. So I was kind of surprised, why do I want the U.S. Constitution? But after I read the Constitution and I went to hunger strike, and it kind of,
You went to you did a hunger strike.
I did a hunger strike for 3 days, I guess.
Oh, wow.
But they have to bring me to the hospital,
Sure.
that kind of stuff, because I was weak and sick. So the United States Constitution was so, kind of mesmerizing in a way, kind of, open up, kind of, stimulate my imagination by knowing that, oh, this place is operating outside of the boundaries of the United States Constitution. So everything what they're doing here, everything what we are kind of witnessing here, it's illegal.
Wow.
So, and then I start protesting internally.
Yeah.
Refusing to do dishes, refusing to follow order. And the Amnesty International came and they did investigation, but they interviewed me. And through their activism, by that time, 2003-04, President Bush heard about the abuse that was happening in all unaccompanied detentions around the country. So the place was closed, and kids like me at the age of 16, 17, we were sent to foster system around the country. In my case, I was sent to Philadelphia.
So the timeline was about 2 years of that?
Yes.
Wow.
It's about 2 years, yeah.
Okay, and they sent you to Philadelphia. One of the things I'm recalling from our first conversation and listening to you talk was, and I kind of already broke this down already, was the amount of mental trauma that a refugee, and at the time you experience this, the mental trauma that refugees are experiencing at the hands of people in these particular situations who are acting, like you said, outside of the scope of what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That was obviously something that had been taking place way before you got there as well.
Way before.
Sure.
Way before. And what really kind of energized those kind of abuses were when 9/11 happened, because what we're talking about, 2002, and the year before that, in 2001, September 11 happened. So the condition of the immigrants, refugees who were living here in the United States really kind of deteriorated, especially those who were coming from the Middle East, because if you look at difference, but you speak different,
sure,
where you are automatically assumed terrorists in some cases. So, but these people are coming to work. The immigration agents, the ICE agents, they're bringing their internal biases into job.
Right.
And but they create kind of a herd mentality among each other, and but they were turning their backs, from the abuses that was happening. So it became the way, but they were doing the businesses.
Was this something that you were, I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that as much as you were acknowledging what was going on at the time, you were also young. You were 16. 16,
yeah.
So from 16 to 18, you're experiencing this. As the years have gone by and you began doing your work, have you been do you reflect back and start realizing what you didn't notice at that time? Because as children, you can see only so much, but as you become an adult, you start to learn more and educate yourself more. And as you have you ever has a light bulb gone off and been like, holy hell, they were doing this, that, and the third at that time? Like, I would imagine that's what I would be doing, is connecting the dots as the years go by.
Connecting the dots is always in my mind, kind of direct trauma, and indirect trauma. So, looking back, I keep playing in my head, like, but they'll have you take a 3-minute hot shower. And every night I'm banging my head against the wall.
Wow.
because I'm so agitated. Like, I want to get on this place.
Yeah.
So I was a different person back then,
Yeah.
because what's going on in my mind, I'm thinking about the country I left behind, the family I left behind, friends, community. And I'm here alone in the middle of nowhere, not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow.
It's fair to say that for that time, you never really truly wrapped your head around what was going on.
No. And it seemed like everything were moving so fast.
Sure.
And when you hear negative thoughts, negative voices coming out of you, like on a daily basis, either somebody's yelling at you, either somebody's correcting you in a loud voice, like you're not standing up right, you're not eating right, but you're taking too long in the bathroom, they're banging on the doors.
Wow.
So it was like a hostile environment.
Yeah. And I mean, they were purposely agitating everyone there. It wasn't,
Absolutely.
It wasn't so much like they were noticing things. They were making a mountain out of an anthill every single time.
But they made our lives miserable for coming, into in the United States, because they didn't understand, the value or the purpose of refugee seekers, asylum seekers. I mean, people have a right to flee conflict.
Yeah.
Asylum seekers is the idea that internationally agree upon. Those who are seeking asylum have a right. The Geneva Convention 1951 talks about that. So we were protected, supposedly protected, but we were. And the idea went on, and it's now at the end. Back in 2002, it went on until today. It is happening still.
Gotcha.
There are people in detention centers that are being abused, and as you know, child separation was one of the worst human rights abuse of our time, caging the children, and few end up dying in a cage. So all this, it's not the U.S. policy. It is not the United States immigration policy that children have to die in a cage. It's not. It is the idea, people in the power, but we talked about people with the, but the soul, so negative.
Yeah.
And it kind of a project to the innocent children who are coming to the United States to seek for asylum.
And when you mentioned the herd mentality, that makes things worse, because then those that are inflicting this pain with this negative thought, with a herd mentality, it doubles down and it makes things even more impossible to feel and think that we can get through this. Were you ever at some point for those 2 years like, this is it for me? I'm not leaving this place. I take me away. Like I couldn't imagine the thoughts that were going through your mind at that time. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure they were dark.
Absolutely. I knew one day the place we no longer existed.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Back in my mind, I knew, because a lot of my friends were cutting themselves quietly, and the kind of it's almost like a spirit. Like, yeah. I had a feeling that this place cannot be sustainable. It cannot sustain its practices in the future.
Got you. You just had this feeling that...
Yeah, I had that feeling.
Yeah.
Because if you get into trouble with the staff, a lot of kids were being deported.
Okay.
Yeah, and the majority of the kids who got deported were Africans.
Okay. So,
when you're dealing with the hostile environment, with the people's, biases, personal biases, and also we have to deal with the racism as well.
Yeah.
On top of everything.
Yeah.
So the countries where you came from matters in some level.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Let's talk about Dr. Elizabeth Revell, your mother.
Yeah.
Because you met her. Was she your psychiatrist or was she your therapist in regards?
Yeah, psychologist.
Psychologist, forgive me.
Yeah.
She was your psychologist. This is how you met her. Was the healing process of learning how to unlearn and remove the negative, the trauma. Was she a part of initiating that process for you, or?
Yes. When you experience years of a trauma, healing takes time. For some people, it can take a lifetime. You perhaps will never completely heal. Because in my case, food traumatized me.
Okay.
The weather traumatized me.
When you say food, what do you mean?
Food as meat.
Okay. Certain meats trigger you, or?
Yeah, meat. Because I grew up like a semi vegetarian.
Okay.
Because the only thing we were able to eat as a kid were fish.
Okay, I got you.
So
now.
when I came to the detention center, so you have no options.
Wow. Okay.
You cannot say, hey, this is what I like and this is who I am, because they didn't care.
So that's a trigger from that experience of them forcing, and
that's a trigger for that experience. But because of that, I became a vegan. It has been almost 15 years since I became a vegan.
And that was because of your understanding of this trigger.
Because of trigger, for meat.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the weather, you said, how was
weather, summer, reminded me of home.
Okay, that makes sense.
It reminded me of my childhood, because I had a decent childhood growing up in the Congo. Both parents working for the government, so we were good growing up. And in Congo, we have a 6 months of summer. I mean,
wow.
Even when you have the dry season,
sure.
This kind of cold season, we call it dry season. The sun is still out. It's still good outside.
So I can't imagine that it's cold, though, is it? Or no?
It's kind of
chilly
a little bit.
Okay.
But you put
60, 65?
60, 65. I mean, when I came here, I was freezing in New Orleans. 55 degrees, I'm freezing.
Yeah. That's a culture shock.
Yeah. So
that's a trigger for you. Then the weather, as soon as I'm assuming then the summer is bittersweet for you, where you're enjoying it, but you're also reflective.
I'm reflective, yes. So, summer is trigger. So what Dr. Elizabeth Revell did to me, I mean, by that time when I left Berks County, I went to Forest Home in Philadelphia, 2 different Forest Home in Philadelphia. And I aged out in the foster system, and I came to York, living in a group home. Soon after that, my biological mom died in the Congo from a natural cause.
Okay.
But we think it was a heart disease.
Okay.
So everything came back again.
Gotcha.
By the sense that I'll never see my father again, I never see my mother again, my brother. So I was doing extremely bad.
Okay.
Psychologically speaking.
Yeah.
I went through serious depression. I was a bit suicidal. So the lady who was working at the group home, she passed away, but she was very, very kind to everyone. But her name was Leanne. She noticed my behavior. I quit going to school, and she didn't like that how I was acting. So she contacted Dr. Revell.
Got you.
Because by that time, Dr. Revell was already giving a pro bono psychotherapies for the immigrants, the refugees who were involved in this program. So I became her patient. One thing, but she kind of focused on me where like I'm safe. I have a people who love me. I have a people who care for me. And that was important. Kind of showing me that I might lose everybody there, but I can have a family here. I can have a new family.
Gotcha.
But to get me gone, kind of life moving on, and I have to be part of a life. That's when she asked me to be courageous. And the fun thing was I asked her what courage means at that time. She said that courage means showing up to your life no matter what is going on. You have to be present. You have to show up for yourself.
Yeah.
Living, breathing every day is also definition of courage.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
And I've heard that statement before. You have to show up.
You have to show up.
That goes for everything in life.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love, sometimes you post these little stories and they always start with life with mom. And it's always like this, it's always like a cute little window into your relationship. But
yes.
Is that how it is every day with your mom?
Yes.
Humor and some yeah.
Oh, yes. I mean, keep in mind that both my adoptive parents, but they both psychologists. My father was a psychologist as well.
Okay.
So having a conversation with them every day, it's like I'm in a session.
Yeah. Yeah.
like, hey, can we have a normal conversation?
Stop. Just talk to me like a normal person.
So, life with mom is inspired by, even our conversation, when you play back, you're like, did I really say that? Did she really say that? And then we start laughing about it. For example, she will ask me, hey, did you clean your closet? I'm like, I don't know. Should I clean my closet? It's like, okay, let me go check. And then she go check my closet. And then she said to me, hey, organization is not your strong suit. Or long suit. And I'm like, I don't even have a long suit. So just like, no, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
I meant that you were messy. So I'm like, okay. She said something like, hey, Makaya, on top of your head, do you know where my phone is? And then I touch my head. I'm like, so those kind of conversation kind of, misunderstood because I'm still learning English.
Yeah.
And, cultural differences and a lot of misinterpretation turn into life with mom stories.
Yeah.
They're all authentic. They're all real.
They're all, and that's what I love. It's always, I remember reading the first one and immediately like realizing that the humor in here, but it's a learning experience that you're both having with one another about one another.
Yes,
which is cool because you're allowing people to see something that's away from what you're usually doing.
Yes,
it's nice to kind of present a different perspective. Your life.
And I love that when you say learning. That's kind of a hidden message is educational, but we're teaching how relationship can be. Kind of you can disagree with somebody without being angry or provoking a resentment toward one another. Because a lot of life with the mama also is embedded in disagreement.
Okay, I got you. It's a healthy disagreement, though.
It's a healthy disagreement. It's a conflict, but the beauty, section about conflict is that even though you have a conflict with somebody, you always have to know who that person is.
Yes.
That's
that's important.
Yes,
I feel
always have to know.
Especially when it's with somebody that you know very well.
With
and
somebody
you love.
very
And
well.
You have to know
Yeah.
who they are.
You have to know who they are.
Yeah.
You know, but we call it like, you know, our mom call it like carrying your hurt lightly.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things. I'm really glad that we're having this conversation because I love digging deeper into the things that I wish you could have talked about the first time around.
Yes.
And this relationship with your mom, you hinted both of your parents, they're psychologists, that experience, 16 years old, you're coming from the Congo, obviously unexpected, that your world is turned upside down. You're learning and being presented with a whole different life that's, oh man, so many different levels of education. Do you ever take a minute to step back and realize how phenomenal that is? Even the hurt and the pain, but the joy, like you said, even you were told that even though you weren't able to be with your family in the Congo, you could still have something here.
Yes.
That ability to recognize that and accept it. There's so much that you've absorbed.
Yes. Yes. And one thing I'm grateful about this country, for the U.S., have created greatness. You know, when somebody say, "Oh, America's the greatest country in the world," no, it's the American people are great. You know, but the idea, my parents taking a risk on the unknown, and paying for my colleges, you know, paying for my healthcare, paying for my well-being. It was, you know, and still one of the greatest gifts I received in this country. And because the American people, you know, this society are creating a people like my parents, people like you, but who will spend your own resource, you know, but to allow people to tell their stories, but to give people a voice, it is very important. I learned from my parents, and like you said, it has, you know, educational. My whole life it has been school. This started in the Congo. First time I went to school, I was a 5-year-old. And my mom took off work and invited all her friends, and they all took me to school. And I stayed in school for 3 hours. They were outside waiting for me for the 3 hours. They took me home and they had a barbecue. So that day, I fell in love with the school from that day.
Okay, wow. So okay, so that's interesting. So you thrived on education from a young age.
Absolutely. I love the idea of learning because learning is endless. You know, through education.
You're always a student, as they say.
There's always students. You know, through the educational system. So I had a strong background when it comes to, you know, early childhood education.
Nice.
My early childhood education, you know, was strong, because I went to good school. So when I came to the United States, not speaking English, but with the help of my parents, you know, tutoring and teaching, I graduated as a valedictorian in my class.
Nice.
You know, I couldn't speak English well, but I understood the material I was learning, you know, and I performed well. So it just, you know, it's... like I said, it's endless. You live in America, you keep learning. You keep learning about people, the culture, the society, how to interact with the people. But you're learning about the food, you know, but what's a good thing for you, you know. Understanding about the boundary, you know, for the people's ideas. So it is exciting. It is exciting. I mean, teaching people about my country, my culture. So, you know,
I can speak for that. I've learned so much just through you.
Oh,
and meeting you and hearing your story, but then taking the time to research things and look it up. And
yes.
I was innocently unaware of what was going on
Oh,
in the Congo
yes.
until I sat and really dove in and was like, holy hell, like it. And that's the thing, is that you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
So
That's
to take
exactly.
the time
Yeah.
and you education in all different forms, whether it's academic or life or
Yeah.
it's all worth it if you take the time to acknowledge it. And that's really what I get from you, is that you've taken the time to acknowledge
Yes.
the situation for what it was. It's not like you're just letting days go by and not really acknowledging it.
Yes. I mean, you know, as a people in a family, you know, but you wanna, you know, leave a mark that
Yeah.
you tried.
Yeah.
You know, you tried, and giving up is not an option. You know, I mean, I'm sure that put your children in a good hands. You know, but you have spoken to many people, but you have heard a lot of stories. I think, you know, those kind of stories where you can share with your children, you know, but show them
Right.
how, you know, some culture are operating, you know, so when they grow up, you know, they won't be strangers in this world.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are living as a guests, as a strangers.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's the some people are existing and not living.
Exactly
That's
right.
always how I've kind of looked at it, I tell my kids that, so
Yeah.
don't stay stagnant in this life, and
Yeah.
don't just exist.
Yeah.
Like, be a part of it.
You have to
somehow.
be part of it. Yeah. Yeah.
When we talk about and forgive me, I'm trying to, the name of the foundation is the Mary Mambu Makaya Foundation, or did I say
Yes.
that wrong?
Yeah, you got it.
I got
yeah.
it right. And we were just briefly talking about this as you got here, and it's the venture of running a business. You've got the foundation. That's obviously, the gears have been moving on that for over 10 years.
Over 10 years, yeah.
The second business that we were discussing, the Peace forgive me, go ahead and say that.
Peace Promise Consulting.
Share with me, because we talked about this also for a little bit the first time, and I've been following you, and I've been trying to gauge exactly what it is that you're doing with this. What's the company about, and what's the service that you're providing through it?
Yeah, Peace Promise Consulting was created 2 years ago. We're still in COVID-19 pandemic.
Gotcha.
You know, disaster.
Yeah.
We saw how people change. Peace Promise Consulting came about to help companies, institutions, schools, and the families. The goal is to create a peaceful environment in these institutions.
Okay.
One thing we learned that the United States companies are losing over $3 billion a year just to push conflict away.
Okay.
You know, kind of to pay off conflict, but they're ignoring to deal with the situation hand to hand. So the result of a workplace conflict, it is always leading into violence. You know, but we've seen a lot of shootings going on, and people are losing their jobs, and bullying and hazing at workplace ultimately are turning it into domestic violence. So, but the source is coming from a work, because somebody being bullied at workplace by boss, for example, nothing they can do, and when they go home and they bully wives, the children, and the people in the household. So Peace Promise is coming in to mediate conflicts, but to teach peaceful way to resolve a workplace conflict. And also we do the in-service with the schools. Our focus has been for the teaching the teachers how to deal with the refugee students who are already traumatized.
Okay.
Because we noticed that even the classroom can be a dramatic environment for those who fleeing violence.
Yeah.
But the way you talk to them, say a security guard with a uniform, it can be seen as a threat.
Gotcha.
If you're coming from a war zone and fleeing violence, but the people with the uniform are always the bad guys.
Gotcha.
In your mind. So when you come to school, you can be easily traumatized. And that this kind of affecting the learning process.
Yeah.
So many things these people are dealing with, language barrier and, kind of culture shock. So a lot of refugee students end up with not doing well in school. So but they've been, painted as a, trouble students,
Sure.
usually
Bad students, yeah.
Bad students, and put in the special classes.
Yeah.
I mean, when you in the special classes, you're not getting a full blessing of education. It's almost like for you being a watch, for you being a babysit, instead of taught.
Right. And you're not gaining the full experience that a traditional student would be
Traditional
receiving.
students or native students
Sure.
are getting. So Peace Promise, but we come in and work with the teachers. Even, but we also do public speaking, speaking about how to, handle up with a situation that the refugee students are facing around the country or around the classrooms.
So this is really cool because when we were talking about, obviously you're addressing toxic environments in the workplace. That's one thing where let's discuss what's going on and let's shine a light on it. But you're also helping employers or teachers find the human element in the situation and addressing it rather than just pushing it to the side.
Yes.
Paying people off and not addressing the situation.
The core situation, yes. And in our team, we have a few retired teachers working with us. We also have business, personnel working with us, also psychologists, because we also are aware of mental health crisis that's happening, in a country. You will find that both teachers and the students are the victim of a mental health. So how do you deal with that?
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So, and drug abuse. So COVID-19 pandemic kind of left us with the invisible war. We're fighting with either it's a personal or in a family or in institutions.
Gotcha. This venture started as the pandemic kicked off?
It started in the middle of the pandemic.
In the middle of the pandemic.
Like
Gotcha.
2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, because we saw how society changed.
Oh, so it was because of the pandemic.
Because of pandemic.
Oh, okay, got you now.
Yeah.
Whose idea was this? Was this yours?
Yes, it was my idea.
Okay, because this is that's a lot of. I never really thought of that element, and rightfully, I mean, I'll admit, I've been on the other end where it's like, the boss doesn't understand. All they think about are the numbers.
Yeah.
We're just the number. And so you have this, and that may be a herd mentality in my own right, where you get the co-workers on your side and I'm dealing with this, but they don't care about that, or they're just going to give me the HR. They're going to handle it the best way they can through HR, but there isn't really a genuine concern. And so what you're saying is you acknowledge that, and you're trying to help employers actually look at, like I mentioned, the human aspect. Do you ever, is that difficult for you to communicate that message to higher ups, to big wigs, to people that are running businesses, because they're thinking of business? Is it, do you find it easier or harder to discuss the human element of confronting confrontation in a healthy way? Yeah. Or is it harder?
Yeah. I mean, but the easy answer for that is that but we always tell people, when you go into workplace, when you have a job, I'm sure in most work where you sign a contract, where they hire you, as soon as you are in a in a workplace, where you become an ambassador of the company.
Sure.
And all the personal biases where you might have about the company, where you know where to address that. But what seems to happen oftentimes that as a human being, we are our own best advocate. And sometimes our mind tricks us by giving us a, kind of a positive sentiment. Like, but you feel like, maybe something's not going right with me, with the way they're talking to me. But we tell people, when you see something's not going well, you know where to speak in the management, or talk to the boss. Talk to somebody who you have a beef with, or who's not understanding you. But we're aware that there are some bosses love to carry the badge on the shoulders.
Sure. Yeah.
There are people like that, but we know that. But if you look very carefully in those people behaving that way, you will find the suffering.
So that's the thing is, I applaud you because I could never really put myself in a position, and I'm admitting that I couldn't put myself in a position to really care if a boss is suffering. But what you're saying is there's a reason.
There's a reason.
So let's acknowledge the fact that
the
boss might be dealing with something.
The boss might be dealing with the suffering. But the methodology I was telling people is that during this time of a crisis and uncertainty, you have to assume everyone you see is going through something.
Wow, yeah.
So you have to have that compassion in your heart, in your soul, that approach people with a gentle and a tenderness. Because that way you will de-escalate them. You will decolonize them from a negative thought or violence.
What's the response? What kind of response are you getting from these teachings that you're having with them?
Very well.
Yeah.
People are being very, responsive about the idea, because, you got affected by COVID. I got affected by COVID. Our suffering might not be the same, but we went through some fear.
Yeah.
Genuine fear.
Yeah.
And since then, but we not even in need from recovering from it, and we have not yet grieved.
Wow.
But the grieving process have not even started yet, because we're still in it.
Yeah, actively.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you find it that people need to be vulnerable enough to allow themselves to speak on that level of, yes, I'm dealing with, yes, I'm hurting, yes, I'm suffering, because that's not easy.
No.
So you're putting that into consideration, how to kind of break down those walls and get people to open up, because that's what I was trying to allude to earlier. When you get into these companies with people running businesses, some of them may be very focused on, we got to rock and roll. This is a business, I don't have time to discuss my feelings. Do you ever encounter things like that?
But we see that, and a lot of times people are focusing on that, but they forget the human aspect.
Yeah.
But they deal with not the human. So, but you stress yourself so badly, and there's something happened to you, but you die, for example, from a stress.
Sure.
You will be replaced.
Yeah.
And the company will go on.
Yeah.
So it's very important to take care of yourself first before taking care of a company or taking care of other people. You, the dominant variable must be okay, strong enough to confront the task the company is putting in front of you, and also to build a peaceful environment around you.
Yeah. I applaud you for that. I'm glad we're talking about that, because I had a general idea the first time, but I didn't realize the levels that you're going through, the levels that you're approaching, and addressing. The grind never stops with Makaya. He's constantly working. And I think that's one of the things that drew me to him, was his undeniable passion for what's right. Even taking it as far as saying, the immigration policy, there wasn't really anything wrong with it. It was more so the people that were put in charge to run it. They were just not working within the scope of what was supposed to be done. These people had broken souls. Their souls weren't right. That's how he worded it. So he's a very genuine person with his intent, if you will. And what he's doing now, he wants to help businesses that are avoiding conflict or trying to find resolutions with people and their employers. Or another example is teachers and students. This dynamic that the students that are coming, refugee students that are coming and not knowing the customs of the United States, the language, the mannerisms. There's a lot of things that stand out differently to people that are escaping, that are seeking asylum. Forgive me. They grew up with war and harsh times and a lot of violence, if you will. There's a lot of things that need to go into consideration when you have students and teachers from different worlds. And he's introducing, a business, a company that can help mediate that and break barriers, break the ice. To put that much thought into it, it only shows where his passion and consideration is. It's still there, in the trenches, if you will. Even though the levels of success that he's experiencing, his mind is still where it was when he was 16 in a way, and that may be a gift and a curse. But I think how he's handling it shows you the maturity and the kind of person and character that he has, and the kind of man that he is. So Makaya Revell, the second half of this interview coming at you right now. I hope you're enjoying it. Peace. And this business venture it's challenging. You alluded to.
Yeah.
When it comes to the experience of hitting the roadblock, hitting the speed bumps.
Yep.
In life and business, how are you, what's Makaya Revell doing to keep his focus, to maintain a positive outlook? You're very positive, and I've gotten that from you, but I'm sure there are times where you get furious and maybe frustrated.
Yes.
How do you handle that?
I do embrace life.
Okay.
But the Buddha teaches life is suffering. And I'm okay with that. Life without suffering is not worth living. Not everything's going to be a kind of perfect, kind of easy.
Yeah.
But, sometimes, obstacles can be the best thing that can happen to you, because it will teach you something that you didn't know. It will teach you a new way to approach for your business, or methodology, or how to run things in your life. But going back to you as a variable, call it a dominant variable, you have to be strong to overcome the obstacles, and that comes with the discipline and consistency. For me, I do a lot of meditation.
Okay.
I fast a lot, and I read a lot. when things are not going well for me, first I have to identify the problem, and then I go walk on in the private. I would disappear for maybe 5 days, 1 week, just dealing with the particular obstacles.
Sure.
Sometimes I go out of state.
Okay, so you're traveling, you're leaving.
Yeah.
Okay,
I have
gotcha.
to leave an area.
Okay,
For stay in a hotel for 3 days maybe,
gotcha.
and just lock myself in, and kind of imagining, meditating a new way to confront the obstacles.
You find that leaving the area helps you
Yes.
refocus.
Yes.
I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to probably try that. I might have to take my wife with me, but that's fine with me. No, I'm just joking. But so that makes sense, because I often say, I use the phrase, when you're too close to something, you can't see the trees from the forest. So sometimes you have to take a step back to see the bigger picture.
I like that.
And when you're too close, you can't see it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of equate that to what you just said, is when you're in it, you kind of just want to be like, you know what, let me remove myself from for a little bit to regain my focus.
To regain the focus, kind of to energize.
Yeah.
Your energy must be working 24/7.
Yeah.
But you have to find a way to control it.
Do you believe in the use of energy, the presence of energy?
Yes.
That's awesome, because I'm a huge believer in that.
Yes.
Yeah. Negative and positive, I try to stay away from. If I feel something's not right, I don't question it. I leave.
Yeah.
If I feel something's really good, I don't question it. I just try to get more of it, if that makes any sense to you. So
yes.
The vibes that I get from people, and
Yeah, I mean, but we are energy being in some sense. When you see somebody, but you feel certain way, whether it's positive or negative, like you can have a sense like, oh, wow, this person make me feel so certain ways.
Yeah.
Let me get to know them, or let me, be close to them. But in the flip side, you can meet somebody, you're like, oh, I gotta stay away from this person.
Yeah, and it's right away too.
It's right away.
Within 5 minutes, I've gotten feelings where I'm like, nah. I don't even want to entertain. I'll entertain for the party because I'm at this party. But once we leave, I never want to see said individual again. No, I appreciate that. I feel like the best thing that people can do is to trust their gut. And I've known that since I was a teenager. I just didn't realize what it was until I got older, and I really started learning and studying and listening to people. And it was like that gut feeling is that gut's telling you something. Yes. That energy is resonating with your body a certain way.
Yeah.
And I've gotten them both ways. I've been out and I've gotten this feeling like something is not right here. We need to go. And within 5 minutes, a fight breaks out. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And it's like, we got to go because I should have listened to my gut. And then there's times where you're right. You meet somebody, you just can't explain it. The vibe's great. You're enjoying the company. You're enjoying the conversation. Yeah. You're next thing you know, you're sharing information that's beneficial to your life.
Yeah.
And that's how you grow, and that's how you learn. And I feel like that's the best thing that you could do is just open yourself up for education.
Yes. Kind of listen to your subconscious.
Yeah. One of the things that we talked about towards the end of our conversation last time was, what are your plans in the future? And I remember you roughly briefly mentioning, the fight for the asylum. And now that you've made it there and you've been granted the asylum, where are you at now? What's the goal here? Are we still focusing on, are you going to open more businesses? Is there any plans to broaden the foundation? Anything you would like to share?
I think the discipline continue on. Asylum was something that I fought for 20 years.
Yeah.
But in that 20 years in the United States, me living here, I wasn't sitting around. I was going to school. I created a foundation. I was, speaking up against, government atrocity whether it's Congo or the United States. I was busy, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So that kind of distracts me a little bit from the fear of deportation. So I wasn't thinking about it, even though I was in a deportation order for 20 years.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about that because I was living my life. I was showing up to my life every single day. I was doing things. And many thanks to Aldea, the People's Justice, the law firm that's operating, to protect immigrant asylum seekers for their base in Reading, Pennsylvania, led by, my attorney, Bridget Cambria, and Jackie. So they did a wonderful job, getting me through this asylum dilemma that I was in. But for the future plan is the foundation, the Mary Makaya Foundation. We're always looking to expand.
Sure.
Since our existence in 2012, we have assisted over 7,000 orphan children in Congo.
That's beautiful.
So our hope now is to work with the government to allow the street children, for the orphan children who are living in the streets, to be enrolled in a public education system, creating a food program for them, giving them a path to go to perhaps vocation, schools, go to trade schools, because when you are orphan in the Congo, your chance of succeeding in life is kind of slim. Because being an orphan, you have a huge handicap in your hands.
Yeah.
Because people will stay away from you. The institution that's kind of involved with the, human, needs will overlooked your case. So this is very common in Africa in general, but, this case we're focusing in Congo for now. So, but we're looking to expand, but get into, human needs in the Congo through the Mary Makaya Foundation. That's the goal. Personally, we will continue also to work on a peace promise consulting idea. But we made we became a members with one of the organization in Washington D.C. Alliance for Peace Building. Okay. And we will be invited by them through the organization. So we were creating a lot of we're going to be creating a lot of partnership.
Okay. A lot of networking.
A lot of networking alliance, because we are also international business. So that's where my focus is for now. Personally, winning asylum after 20 years is like a dog who caught the car. And you don't know what to do with it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking, is it's almost like, okay, it's business as usual. You're still you're still back at it, and nothing has changed, but the dog has caught the car. Now what? But have you had time to really genuflect and look back at like, damn, I've been, this is what I was fighting for. I'm here now. Even though you were keeping yourself busy, you were working, you weren't really focused on the possibility of deportation. Was that still a weight off of your shoulders after the asylum victory?
Personally, no. I feel like even if I want asylum, I feel like I'm still there in a limbo.
I got you.
Even though so many great things has happened, but the Bruce County detention it got closed recently, I think last month, but they closed that for good, so it's no longer existence, which is a victory.
Absolutely.
To us and to me personally because I was there. Bridget's gonna help but to get a place closed as well, but I'm not satisfied.
Okay.
Because I know there are people currently in my position. You know, I am who I am today. Like I think in our previous conversation, I alluded this that my story is not unique.
Yes, you did.
There are millions of people going through what I went through in private. The difference between them and me is those around me. My family, my friends, I've given a privilege to be sitting here in your beautiful home.
Thank you. Yeah.
And they're talking to you about these issues. So many people don't have this privilege to speak up.
Yeah.
Because they're still living in the shadow.
And I think I'm sorry, forgive me. I don't mean to step on your toes there.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that the beautiful part of that is that going back to what I said earlier is that you acknowledge that.
Yes.
That you could have very well lived a different life. You could have gotten your education and then lived your life
and move on.
And really, okay, that nobody could really hold you to that, but hold that against you rather. But you are consistently keeping yourself grounded and where you were and fighting the fight, so to speak.
Yeah.
You said that you still feel like you're still there or that you're not satisfied. Is that does the trauma play a role in that for you? The trauma that you've experienced, does that consistently, the little triggers that you have experienced they keep you somewhat connected to the fight in a way where you just can't flippantly forget about it. It's always going to be there for you.
Yes. But the trauma is there, for sure.
Yeah.
But the trauma is there because I know somebody's going through what I went through.
Gotcha.
I know somebody will never get a chance that, of course, I don't want to be, naive by thinking that we can help everybody in the world. But we can change our immigration laws, immigration policies that will humanize people.
Gotcha.
That's the fight. Find a way to humanize people, or stop with the backlog. Move a process forward.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
You don't want anybody to come to your country but to live in a country. Find a way to give them solution or give them news. Treat them as a human being. In this detention we're seeing from Florida, Texas, but they're shipping people away from their states and the different states. It's almost like a human trafficking going on here.
Yeah, it's funny how that's
it's in front of us.
Yeah.
And we're so busy fighting our own trauma, our own family problems, and we're kind of overlooked or even forget about that. But human beings are being abused in one of the greatest countries in the world, the United States.
I think one of the things that's frustrating for me is when I see that stuff on the news, you can easily, the everyday person in this country, because of the media and the news, can easily be swept away with the mentality and the judgment of, oh, those people are from another country, they shouldn't even be here. Those people are from instead of looking at the human aspect of it. And it's really frustrating because there's a lot of people that do not have the tools mentally to really equip themselves to think about the human element. They're just so far gone in their
I agree.
bias and their hatred.
Unfortunately.
And there's times where I've had conversations
Yeah.
and I'm like, we're never going to get anywhere because you genuinely aren't looking at these people as people. They're human beings.
Yeah.
Like, we can talk about politics, but at one point, can we just sit here and go, you're moving people across the country like cargo.
Like cargo, absolutely.
Yeah, and when I saw that, I was like,
illegally.
this is, how do you do that and say, well, yeah, that's they shouldn't be here. Like, sometimes it's hard, and I feel like because I genuinely am concerned about the human element, in this, not just this country, but in the world.
Yeah.
It's almost like, can we just have a conversation, which is what really sparked my podcast, was like getting to know people.
Yes.
Because there's a story, and there's a little child in all of us. And the reason why I say this is because children are so innocent, and you know this with your foundation, to quickly swoop into a child's life and nurture and save them. Yeah. You can salvage their thought process, their emotional intelligence. Yes. If they're young, because once they grow cold and old, it's harder and it's harder. And there's a lot of people that I work with, or that I converse with on social media, or that I see on the news. They're just so far gone in negative thinking. Yeah. It's like, whatever happened to just saying, like, we're talking about a human being.
Yes. Yeah, and those who are coming against immigrant, we call them undercover immigrant themselves, because even though they're against the immigrant, but if you look back in their history, they are descendants of an immigrant.
Sure.
Except with the African American, for the slavery trade, or Native American, but for the rest of us. Yeah.
But nobody ever wants to really think on that level. You know what I mean?
Nobody wants to acknowledge that. And but they created avatars around the issue. Oh, no, the immigration was different, but they came illegally. I mean, legally, yes. It also depends what country you're coming from. Yeah. What country your ancestry came from.
Gotcha.
So that's also very important. And today's immigration issue, our lawmakers are benefiting from the hatred but they're portraying against immigrants. I mean, saying that, I'm gonna build a wall. He got somebody elected. Yeah. It's not. But the message wasn't. I'm gonna, create jobs. I'm gonna, help with the mental illness. I'm gonna, make sure we have a sustainable healthcare system. No, but the message was, I'm gonna build a wall. Sure. And they got elected. Yep. So that's what we're fighting, but we're dealing with. How can we, decolonize people's mind, the thought process, but to see immigrant as a people, seeing a refugee, those who fleeing a violence. I mean, empathy, right? Yeah. I mean, if you put yourself in their shoes, yeah, what would you do when your family is being massacred? Yeah. What would you do?
The work that you're doing and the focus that you have dealing with immigrants, just generalizing briefly, you're working and dealing with immigrants. What are the possibilities, or is it possible? I'm sure it is. Have you been dealing with the flip side of people condoning it or fighting against it or making comments? I mean, I see how beautifully you interact with people online and how you, how you can diffuse some conversations, because some people have opinions that aren't coinciding with the work that you're doing. Do you find it easy to navigate those waters, or do you have moments where things get kind of hectic for you?
Yeah, I think but the most powerful tool is the truth.
Okay, yeah.
And don't bring everything or put everything in one, basket. There are so many different classes when it comes to immigration, but we have refugees. When you explain to people what refugee is, they're more likely to understand and agree.
Okay.
I deal with a lot of religious folks, political minded, culturally minded people. You have to talk to people from a language they know and from a arena where they understand.
Gotcha.
Religiously, but arguably Jesus was a refugee.
Yeah.
Moses was refugees. Even Prophet Muhammad, was a refugee. So when you explain to people why they left the homeland and compare that to the refugees today, classical example is the Ukrainian children. You see what's going on in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And you find Ukrainian in your neighborhood. What would you do?
Yeah.
Knowing what's going on in Ukraine, Afghanistan, Syria, Congo, you see, Venezuela. What would you do?
Yeah.
So breaking down the conversation in a humanistic level, like where they understand the human needs with the compassion, empathy, people have a tendency to understand.
Do you find yourself having empathy for people that do not have empathy? Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
When you're dealing with that, you're obviously being empathetic towards them so that you can at least reach them. Then that helps break down that metaphorical wall, I would think.
Yes, because even those who commit a crime, but the violent people, we weren't born violent. Everything somebody told you that.
Yeah.
Same goes to me, to everybody. But life experience, through education, we unlearn violence. We all have our unconscious bias. There are certain people I favored.
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
And there are certain people that I dislike.
Yeah. That's the human element. That's life.
A human element. There are people I knew longer than you. So we have that capability to unlearn racism, violence. Dr. Cornel West called it, you must have the ability to die. He's not talking about physical death, but he's talking about every morning you ask yourself, did I die today? By sense that I have a conflict with that person. Let me go talk to them. Let me forgive them. That's kind of form of death we're talking about.
Wow.
Kind of deep and radical forgiveness.
Yeah. Wow, that's such a really beautiful way to say it, really, that I died today.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense now when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, killing those things, the negative energy, those things are holding you back, but the anger, that's kind of letting it go. Because when you don't wear certain shoes because it doesn't fit you anymore, you love it, but you have to let it go. But that shoes has to die.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, I love it, man. This is a great conversation. Thank you very much, man.
Absolutely.
Are we going to be seeing any more Life with Mom? Is that going to continue?
Life with Mom will continue. Yes.
Maybe put that on YouTube or something so we can see videos. Yeah. Does your mom is she okay with the sharing of the jokes and laughs of your life? Is she into social media or not? Like how does that work?
Oh, Mom's into social media. Sometimes she'll call me and say, Makaya, why'd you do that?
Oh, she did.
That was personal. But for being a public, figure as she is as well.
Yeah.
And it is important but to show people a little bit of how she live a life for the sake of education.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's cool that she gets it and she allows you to live your life the way you're living it, and instead of pushing against it, she embraces it. I think that's awesome. She's a very lovely woman. She was very gracious enough to let us over, and we walked in at your home this past summer, like I mentioned earlier. Lovely woman. I had a great time then. I'm having a great time now. Before I let you go, there's one thing I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
And I've seen it brought up a couple times also on social media. Talk to me about the brown shoes, man.
The brown shoes?
What's the story with the brown shoes? Is that like your style? Is that an inside joke? What is it? Am I reading into it? Because I see people always comment about your brown shoes.
Brown shoes, it's a love story. Brown shoes, a love story. It's dedicated. I cannot mention name.
Okay.
But it is dedicated to somebody who introduced you and I.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So it's a little something dedicated to that person.
Yes.
Got you. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But that means that I never truly let her go.
Gotcha.
So, but the brown shoes is a message to her.
Okay, so I'm gonna now keep that in my mental Rolodex. I had to mention it because I've seen people every time you post a picture like there's the brown shoes, and I'm like, what's the deal with the brown shoes? No, but I appreciate that. Listen, I think one of the best things that I appreciate about you is your vulnerability, but also just being willing and open to discuss any and everything and having a great outlook on life.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the things that I got from the first time, but I'm really glad that we've got to meet again and talk in person now.
Yep.
Because there's so much more to your story, not just the stuff that is sad, but there's so much joy and love and energy, positive.
Yes.
And thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And like I said before, and I'll say it again, I look forward to watching you grow and seeing what else you do with your businesses.
Yes.
Good luck to you, my friend. I appreciate meeting you again.
Thank you so much. And I owe your daughter something. I mean, come to Ship Sharing, bring a family again this year. I will send you an invitation.
Well, I think we'll be there. So you don't have to worry about that.
And I don't know, can I say something about my uncle Patrick, who lives in California?
Okay.
He's writing a book about my the life story, everything we discuss about, but the book is being written.
Got you.
Yeah.
So you've got a book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the book is it's been written, but you know that when it's ready.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
You let me know, and I will share it. I will plug it for you. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Well, that is episode 56 with Makaya Revell. I hope you enjoyed it. Makaya, thank you so much for once again joining me on the Journeyman Chronicles. I'm looking forward to doing a lot of these Zoom interviews once again, but in person. So look forward to that. This is the first time I did that, and Makaya was on board. It worked out so well. Thank you very much, Makaya Revell, for all that you're doing. Keep doing it. It's an honor for people like me to share it, and I hope if there's anything I can do to help, you'll reach out. Next week, I'm talking to my man LaRock Hudson, and if you know LaRock, You know, my man pulls no punches when it comes to equity and the inclusion of black and brown people, so we have a lot to discuss. Next week's episode, 57, LaRock Hudson. Don't miss out on that. Until then, please remember to take care of yourself, love yourself, and always remember to maintain focus and stay continuous through all 4 seasons. My name is Felix C. Arroyo, and these are the Journeyman Chronicles. Y'all be safe.